Hey everybody, it's the Snowman with TooLoudTooOldMusic.com. Welcome to the collection. This week we're going to take it back to when I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old, and very influenced by what my siblings were listening to. And my oldest brother was a big fan of Kiss, and so therefore I became one as well. I'd go down in the basement, he'd have music playing, but his wall was just plastered with pictures of Kiss all over the walls. I mean, there wasn't an inch of space. It was kind of everywhere. These are just some that I think were probably up on his wall because I found them in a box of vinyl that we had that had my albums and his albums in there. And I think he wants his albums back, but right now I have them. So Kiss was just larger than life when you were a kid. They were everywhere. TV, all the promotions and merchandising and everything like that. It was hard not to get sucked into that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the collection that I have of Kiss on vinyl, but we're only going to go up to Creatures because I have a lot and it would take a long time. We'd have to go too fast, and I wanted to talk about each one. So we're going to start, of course, with the debut. Now, the debut album is not where I got into Kiss. It was more along the lines of Alive, I think, is where I came in, but went back and got all the original ones. Pressing I have, this is the 2014 remastering of the debut Kiss album. This, of course, has Kissin' Time on it. And one day I want to get the one that does not have Kissin' Time on it. And I had a shot at it from our local store, Noble Records, but I didn't get there in time and it was sold, which I'm kind of glad I didn't get it. It was like 150 bucks. So I doubt I would have paid that much for it. But this is the classic. Yeah, the sound's not the best. The remastered version, of course, sounds great. But it's got all the classics. It's got Deuce. It's got Strutter. It's got Black Diamond. It's got all the songs that I kind of grew up with and love, and that they still played up until the very end. Um, I mean, you can't really say a bad thing about this one. This was probably what, February 18th or so from 1974, I believe. Yeah, February 18th, 1974. So gotta have that one. All right. Then the next album would have been Hotter Than Hell. So as a kid, this just fascinated with all the Japanese writing and stuff. And if that's the Chikara symbol, if I'm not mistaken, you'll see that on one of their albums much later. And it's on Eric's. I remember Eric Carr's drum set had it on there when I went and saw them in concert. But this was a fascinating cover for a little 8-year-old, especially with some of these provocative pictures here on the back. Um, but again, this is a great one. I mean, got to choose Parasite, which is one of my favorites, Going Blind, Hotter Than Hell, Watching You, Coming Home, Strange Ways. It's just great song after great song. And again, the quality back then, you didn't get the sound of what Kiss really was on those first few albums. That came later, much later. Then we got the third album, Dressed to Kill. Mine's a little beat up, this little sticker over here. Shot on the back. Now, this was taken in New York City out on the street. My brother and I, when we went to the End of the Road show in New York, we went by this street and got our pictures taken we didn't reenact the cover, but we did take a picture at that spot. So we can say we were there with Kiss. This isn't my favorite of the first three, but there are some really good songs on here. I like Room Service, Two Timer. Um, Rock Bottom, of course, on here. This is the one that has Rock and Roll All Night, but this is not the version that made them famous. That came with the next album, which is definitely the album that broke the band. So this was 1975 when Alive came out. And just imagine 6, 7, 8-year-old kids seeing that. I mean, just sucks you right in. And you get the crowd shot with the famous two kids on the back with the poster. The inside of it, not the greatest. Got the notes there. And then we've got the album covers for the first couple albums. Um, but this is what I remember first listening to. Um, it's incredible. I don't know how else to say it. Even though we know they went back into the studio and recorded most of it again, it still feels like a live album. So for me, it's a live album. But it had all the hits, and it was Rock and Roll All Night, the live version on here that got released, and that's kind of what helped take them to the next level. This is what the first album that made Kiss sound like the live show, and it really, I think, clued everybody into what they were all about. For me, especially. I mean, I gravitated towards Gene, and of course, Ace's guitar playing. Yeah, it's a little sloppy, but you can't beat his style, and it's great. So, if you're gonna a good starting point, get Alive. That would be one. Uh, but then the first album for me would have been Destroyer. And this is a first pressing. That's really what this little sticker says. Um, Bob Ezrin was brought in to work on this one. I mean, the cover work is incredible. So this was March 15th, 1976. Um, you got the barren wasteland on the back. I mean, they kind of look like gods on this thing. It was awesome. They really stretched their sound on this one. They experimented with a lot of things. Detroit Rock City had all those little extra sounds on it with the car crash and the radio and those kind of things, which bleeds right into King of the Nighttime World. God of Thunder, the most classic Gene Simmons song, even though it was written by Paul. But then you get some weird stuff like Great Expectations, which is kind of out there. Flaming Youth was phenomenal. Sweet Pain, Shout It Out Loud, Do You Love Me? And then, of course, Beth, which was the song that became a hit and really took them to another level as it was. Um, this still has the nice Shout It Out Loud sleeve in the back. So I don't have anything else that was in there, but at least I still have that. I'll put that in later. Um, and then one cool piece that I have, well, I think it's cool, and it's this promo, a very special Kiss album from their summer tour. This is a promo. There is a little thing that should say, not for sale right here, but someone had cut it out. So I guess they felt like they did that. They could sell it. And they did because my brother picked it up somewhere. This has Beth, Do You Love Me, Flamin' Youth, and Detroit Rock City on it. This is a great little collector's item. One of my favorite pieces in there because it's kind of a rarer piece than their regular albums. So I really love this one. Also, something my brother had, which is now in my collection, he had the originals. And this was done after that, I guess, to go back and celebrate the first three albums to try to get people to buy it again. But this one's a weird one because it's a little beat up. It doesn't have the album covers in here for each individual album. Somebody went through and did these little weird things on the things. But what it is nice thing about this is the white label promo. So all of these are the white labels. I do have one of them in here that does have cover. It's got the Dress to Kill, and it's in really rough shape. So that has the Dress to Kill cover. But otherwise, that's all that's in there. There were no inserts, none of the Kiss Army stuff. The history book's not in there, nothing. So hopefully he got this real cheap because it is beat to hell, and I will like to upgrade this one day down the road. Um, but still, awesome to have in the collection. Then we get to one that, for some reason, I don't remember it too much when I was a kid. Of course, I love this thing now, but I just didn't remember seeing it. It is Rock and Roll Over. This one came out on November 11th, 1976. It's just a regular version, no teardrop version or anything from Paul, which would be awesome to get. Um, but this is to me one of their best, just straight up rock and roll albums. They kind of, after Destroyer, that was so over the top and everything, they kind of just streamed it back and went with this one. Hard Luck Woman was on here, so they tried to repeat Peter's success with another ballad. But Calling Dr. Love, Ladies Room, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, just some really great rock and roll songs on here. So I would recommend this one for sure. Uh, then after that one, we come to the one I really remember as a kid, and it's Love Gun. I mean, when I was a kid, seeing them dressed up like this, then all the women at the bottom, this was 1977 now, so I was 8, 9 years old. Uh, so I would stare at that cover for quite a long time while the album was playing. This, of course, has Love Gun, Tomorrow and Tonight, Christine 16, which doesn't really hold up well nowadays. Plaster Caster, which we know what that one's about. Shock Me, which Ace, and this is where I really fell in love with Ace's music, Ace's songs, I guess I should say. Because from this point on, anytime he would have a song on here, that would be like my favorite song on the album. So really, you get through these first 6 albums, and that's just classic Kiss, really. Um, then I remember my brother having Kiss Alive 2 that came out afterwards. This was probably what, 1977 again, late October. Um, I mean, just the back cover with a lot big pictures. You got Ace and then Gene with the blood. I mean, how awesome is that? And then the inside when they take their whole set and just blow everything up at the same time to get that picture. That's one of the best gatefold pictures I think that's out there. This still has the sleeves from it, and that's on both of the ones that I have. The album itself is mine's a little beat up. The cover is. I've got a split on one end. So again, this is another one I'd like to kind of get a newer version and upgrade a little bit to something a little bit better. Um, I think I need to do that with most of mine because the Love Gun doesn't even have the insert with the gun, and I still need all of that as well. All right. Then we get to their first greatest hits album, which is Double Platinum. I just love the glossy feel. The Kiss is raised, uh, front and back's the same. Inside, you have the track list, but if you can see it, it's got the faces of each of them embalmed on there as well. So as far as just getting their stuff, their early music, greatest hits, this has got everything you would want as far as greatest hits go. It really doesn't get much better than this as capturing the early years of Kiss. So if you need a greatest hits only, definitely grab this one, especially for the shininess of it. I mean, you catch the right light, it'll blind you. But I do love that one. Then I guess Kiss, they were having issues and thing like every other band after a while. So they ended up deciding to do solo albums. And this one is Paul's. And we can see right here, I have Paul and Gene's autograph on a piece of paper. My oldest brother, Mike, was in an airport and chased him down and asked for an autograph. Of course, he said it's not for him, it's for his brother. And I'm sure they were like, yeah, whatever. But it really was for his brother. He gave it to me. Um, he said Paul was wonderful, gracious, very nice. Gene was Gene. So what do you do? All of the ones I have for the solo albums, they all have their poster. They're missing the inserts to buy stuff, except for one of them. But Paul's probably my second favorite solo album. Tonight You Belong to Me, Move On. Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, Take Me Together as One. Just a lot of great Paul songs, and I love it. I love this one. Um, Next, we have my favorite Kiss member, but not my favorite solo album, Gene. I mean, the blood dripping from the lip. How awesome is that? Shadowed in the red. It's just great. Again, I have the poster. Um, Gene's album is very eclectic with what's on here. It's got shares on here. He does a cover of When You Wish Upon a Star. Um, but there's Living in Sin, Radioactive, Burning Up with Fever, and a lot of these demos are on his vault, and some of them are pretty good. So yeah, this is my third favorite of the four. Um, then we go to Peter. Peter's is not a rock album, really. It's more his style, so I get it now, and I can appreciate it for what it is. Back then, I didn't really care for it, but I didn't understand Peter, and he was really more of I don't know, he wasn't a rock guy. But there are some good songs on here. I won't panic completely. none of them are, I mean, none of these are bad. It's just this is the least favorite of the four. But still, it's a great picture. It's got the little the green color and everything. Um, Still a great one. We'll say my favorite one. Oh, I did want to say in this one, I do have his order form if you want to go order some stuff. Um, for some reason, I will say my brother did not order anything from Peter. So this still has that. So this is not in any of the other ones. So I think my brother might have ordered stuff from all the other solo albums, but did not get anything from Peter. So sorry about that, Peter. We still love you. All right. Now we'll go back to Ace. This was my favorite one. Um, I mean, you can see Ace's confidence really growing as a singer, as a front man kind of thing. And his guitar playing on this is incredible. New York Groove, Rip It Out. My favorite was Snowblind, since my last name is Snow. Speeding Back to My Baby, Wiped Out, and then Fractured Mirror, the instrumental that's on the end. It's just a brilliant album from top to bottom. Nothing I'd skip, nothing I'd delete. It's the best one. Sorry, anybody else who thinks Paul's is. I think Paul's a close second, though. Um, then one I picked up more recently, I don't know, I'm sure it's out of order, but I just picked this up. It's Kiss Best of the Solo Albums. And as you can see from the logo up here, this is the German S's because they're not allowed to have the other S. Um, it's got all that on the back, but it's a beautiful, beautiful color. So let's go ahead and pull that out. I want to show this one because this is really a striking look at that. That thing is just gorgeous. They did a really good job with that vinyl. Just I mean, I can just take it out just to look at it. It's that good. Uh, so that one is, of course, I think it's got what, four songs? Three songs from each of their albums. Great little snapshot. Um, and a beautiful reissue of that one. Uh, then we get to where Kiss, Kiss's troubles are just getting more and more. To appease Peter, they brought in the producer of Peter's solo album, Vinny. Um, to do this one in Dynasty. This is not the straitjacket version. One day I'd like to get the straitjacket version. They call this the disco album, but really, it's only I Was Made for Loving You is even close to a disco song. The rest is pure rock. But as a kid, you get that in your head and you're like, I don't know if I want to listen to that one. I like this a heck of a lot more now than I did back in the day. Charisma, Dirty Living, Hard Times, but sure knows something, X-Ray Eyes, and 2000 Man. I mean, just great, great songs on here. So definitely Dynasty's worth it as well. Uh, well, and there's a cool little thing I had found not too long ago. It's a 12-inch for I Was Made for Loving You. Um, yeah, it's the PRC Compton pressing. That's what it says on the thing from 1979. I Was Made for Loving You. And on the B side, we have Charisma is the other song. Uh, yeah, I mean, nothing fancy, but I love the class Casablanca logo and everything. So this is great. Little thing I found a while back. Then we're on to their pop album, uh, Kiss Unmasked. The cartoon on the front, I still say they stink. I mean, I read this thing so many times when I was younger. Uh, Not a huge fan at the time when I was little because it sounded too poppy, but now I think it's a fantastic pop album. Vinny Poncia was on this one as well. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. You'll correct me in the comments. But this has one of my favorite Gene songs on it, which is Naked City. And then all of Ace's songs were great. Two Sides of the Coin. I mean, this has Shandy, which was huge in Australia. But this is just a solid pop record. Um, then they kind of went a little stranger again, and they tried to do a concept album, which we know as The Elder. Um, this is I don't know what early pressing this is, but this does not have it's not in the right order, the song. So this is an early pressing. And I think that was one of the problems because the songs were out of order of what they should have been. You lose track of what the storyline really is. I get it now. I read Julian Gill's book on this album, and which was fantastic. Lots of detail. And now I kind of appreciate this thing a lot more. Um, I love A World Without Heroes. Um, yeah, just some good stuff. Definitely recommend. Bob Ezrin came in, and I think drugs and everything got into everybody, and they kind of, well, except for Gene, he doesn't do drugs. And then they went off the deep end with what they were trying to do. Another album I like more now than I did back then. So then they decided to try to get a little bit heavier, bring their old style back in, and they released a greatest hits album with 4 new tracks, and this is Kiss Killers. Um, you can see they still have the haircuts from the Elder, um, but this was more like what we're used to seeing from them. The heavier sound brought in Michael James Jackson, um, and he helped really hone them back to the right place. The 4 new songs are I'm a Legend Tonight, Down on Your Knees, Nowhere to Run, Partners in Crime, all great. So this, a mini greatest hits album, because there's only, well, there's 12 songs on here, so it's a pretty good set. This was really hard to get back in the day. Like, I don't think it was released in the US, but I did find a copy, or if it was just real hard to find. I finally got one a few years back, so I'm happy to have that one. I do want to get another cleaner version of that one. Then after that one, we get, we're about to a time where I was starting to get into music, my own, my finding my music. Because I gotten away from Kiss with the Dynasty and Unmasked and stuff. I really wasn't that into it. But then when Creatures came out, it brought me back into the fold because this thing is a heavy album. The drum sound on it from beginning to end is just incredible. Eric Carr is now the drummer because Peter's gone. Ace is on. Ace isn't really on here. He's just on the picture, so he's kind of gone at that point. The guitar work's done by a bunch of different people. Vinnie Vincent does a lot of them and writes some songs. Brian Adams is on here as well for writing credits with but yeah, I Love It Loud, that video. I would watch that on MTV and stuff. We'd be at dinner, the TV would be there, and I'd be like stopping and turn around and crank it up when and I just one of my cats just jumped up here. So I'm not going to edit that out. But this is great. Um, this just again heavy Kiss back to where they should be. And I'm going to leave it there because this is only about half of what I have, and it would take too long to go through the other ones. I want to try to keep the show at a shorter time frame. So if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe, leave some comments down below. Go check out the site tooloudtooldmusic.com. If you need to buy merch, we have merch. You can go down to tpublic.com. I'm going to put all the links down in the box below. So hopefully you'll come back and see us again. Thank you and have a great day.